Ferrari is a race car movie, or a racing slash car movie, that is directed by James Mangold. The man who brought us Logan, and the man who broke our hearts 2 years ago by killing Wolverine and taking Hugh Jackson away from us.
Boo this man! Boo this man! It still hurts, damn it! It still hurts! How could you do this to us?
Guys, I'm fine. I'm not tripping about it. It's 2 years ago. It's time to move on. The film stars Matt Damon. It stars Christian Bale. Jon Bernthal is also in this movie. And what this movie actually is, even though the title says it's Ford V Ferrari, it's not really about Ford V Ferrari. The movie takes place in the 60s, and Ford, the car company, is undergoing some tough times due to sales and stuff like that, and they're trying to get business back flowing again. So Henry Ford II decides to recruit a bunch of engineers and drivers, and he wants them to build a really fast car because he wants Ford to get into racing. The whole point of getting into racing is to help drive back up the profits and the sales for Ford again, so he decides to recruit Matt Damon's character, who recruits Ken Miles, who is played by Christian Bale. And the whole point is to build the fastest car in the world so that they can race it in this huge race. I think it's called Le Mans. I think it's called Le Mans. Big Le Mans race in the 60s or whatever it is. Their goal is to get in that race so that they can win that race, so that they can drive up profits. It just so happens that the rival company, Ferrari, is also in the race, and they want to beat them too, for reasons. So while the movie is Ford v Ferrari, I would caution you and say it's not necessarily about that, even though that's a small component of it. I would actually say it's more like Ford v business solutions. Putting aside the fact that James Mangold directed one of the most heartbreaking and devastating scenes that I have seen in my adult life, I actually think the dude is a really good director. And guys, okay, I'm over it. I'm over it, guys. It's time to move on. I'm over it, all right? Not gonna bring it up ever again.
But still, if you haven't already, boo this man!
I think the guy is a really talented director. I think he does a great job with this movie. I think this movie is a really fun, fast-paced movie about friendship and about corporate dicking and about all the stuff that goes into racing and cars. Can't start anywhere else in this movie without talking about the performances. The performances in this movie are terrific, especially Christian Bale. I've always loved Matt Damon. More often than not, he's giving a great performance, but in this movie, Christian Bale is kind of next level. A lot of the crux of this movie depends on how much you buy into their relationship, because they are friends and they work together and they're working on this car so that they can test it, so they can drive it in that race, so that they can win the race and they can please their bosses. Chemistry here is really great. It's really expertly written with a lot of great humor woven into it. In fact, if there is one thing that surprised me about this movie, is how funny it actually was. Almost every character moment and interaction and scene has some kind of clever bit of dialogue or some funny interaction that made me laugh. I was able to get closer inside the mind and the heart of what makes a great driver and what makes somebody who has that kind of relationship with cars tick. In general, in regards to the direction, Mangold is definitely a master of his craft here. This is a very fast-paced, well-shot movie. The fast pace is not just a pun for all the racing that goes on during the movie. Genuinely speaking, even in scenes where there is no racing, it feels like something interesting is happening every single scene. For a majority of this movie, I actually found myself really entertained. I wasn't bored. Specifically as it relates to the car scenes, I feel like Mangold did a great job directing those. There's some really intense driving scenes in this movie. But the driving scenes are kind of intimate too, because they do put you inside the car and they do have you get that experience, that perspective of seeing things from the driver's point of view. They do a great job at knowing when to use music, when not to use music, and when to show the outside of the car, when to show the gear shifts, all of that, and you get this feeling while the race is going on like, holy shit, I feel like we could crash at any moment. Also, shout out the supporting characters in this movie. All of them give good performances. Shout out to the actress who plays Christian Bale's wife and the kid that plays his son. Really loved them in this movie. The supporting character that stood out the most is probably Jon Bernthal to me. Like, he's not necessarily in the movie a lot, but when he is in the movie, he shines, and I feel like that's what Jon Bernthal's role is nowadays. He's a perfect supporting character that can just slide into a movie and automatically make that movie better than what it is. I would say if I have any problems with this movie, I do think it's a little bit too long, and specifically when I say that, I'm mentioning the ending. No spoilers, obviously, but the ending of the film, I feel like dragged a little bit too much, and some of it felt a little tacked on. It felt like they could have cut the movie about 15 or 20 minutes earlier. I don't necessarily see what the ending of the movie added to the rest of the experience, so I do feel like that's why I list it as a negative here. Also, despite the fact that Damon and Christian Bale's characters are such good friends in the movie, I do feel like there was kind of an imbalance to the way that they were fleshed out in terms of their character development. You spend a lot of time in this movie focusing on Christian Bale and his family and his wife, his son, and they get a lot of screen time. Matt Damon's character is great, but you also don't really get the sense that you find out that much about him. Even though he's depicted as one of the leads, you feel like he's more of a supporting character to Christian Bale's story, and I mean, that's fine, but I just feel like they could have definitely fleshed him out more, and it would have made the movie even better. Mangold has proven himself to be one of the better directors working today, and despite the fact that he broke my heart a couple of years ago, I'm gonna say this is one of his better pieces of work. Ford V Ferrari was a really dope-ass movie, a fun-ass ride. I'm gonna put this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Even if you're not really into racing movies like that, I highly recommend you check this one out. It's fun, it's fast-paced, it's entertaining. You're gonna have a good time. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.